Residents near Miraflores, the country's presidential palace, reported hearing gunfire and seeing armed men in military uniforms. The incident happened just hours after Delcy Rodriguez, the country's interim president, took office following the capture of Nicolás Maduro.
Days after the capture of Nicolás Maduro, United States military drones flew over the Miraflores Palace in Caracas, leaving the population on alert and the Chavista regime in despair.
What is this?
They say it was the light.
The Venezuelan security forces fired at the drones, but they couldn't bring them down, once again revealing the weakness of the country's air defenses. What's that? Tension in Venezuela has increased significantly since the capture of the Chavista dictator, in a real witch hunt where the regime is trying to find out who helped the United States. Maduro's fall brought hope, but also sparked uncertainty about Venezuela's political and military future. Welcome to Life in the Barracks. The American drones that flew over Caracas are state-of-the-art equipment, capable of monitoring targets in real time and carrying out precise attacks. Already used in operations in the Middle East, they operate at high altitudes, virtually invisible to conventional radars. These unmanned aircraft can stay in flight for hours, transmitting detailed images and coordinating military actions with surgical precision. The presence of these aircraft around the Miraflores Palace shows that the United States continues to monitor the movements of the Chavista regime. The United States uses advanced military drones, such as the M9 Reaper, the R4 Global Hawk, and the latest YFQ-42A, capable of monitoring and striking strategic targets with extreme precision. These unmanned aircraft operate at high altitudes and can remain in flight for hours, transmitting real-time images to command centers. The M9 Reaper, for example, features high-resolution sensors and can carry guided missiles, while the R4 Global Hawk is specialized in long-range surveillance, covering vast areas without being detected. The new 42A, developed in partnership with General Atomics, represents a new generation of autonomous drones designed for modern combat. An impressive detail is that the pilots who control these drones can be thousands of miles away from the battlefield, operating from secure bases in the United States or in other allied locations. This allows missions to be carried out without directly exposing troops to risk, making drones key assets in counterterrorism operations, reconnaissance, and surgical strikes against high-value targets. Journalists who tried to cover the recent events in Venezuela were detained by the Chavista regime, showing that press freedom continues to be stifled. The Chavista government seeks to manipulate the narrative and block the dissemination of information about the harsh reality still faced by the Venezuelan people. The repression is not limited to the press, as the population faces constant persecution by the so-called collectives. The collectives are armed paramilitary groups that roam the streets of Venezuela to intimidate and identify anyone who may have collaborated with the United States. This witch hunt reinforces that, even without Maduro, evil is still rooted in power. The repression doesn't just limit the press. The commander of the armed forces, Pedrino Lopez, and the number 2 of Chavismo, Diosdado Cabello, continue to coordinate actions to keep the regime alive. They use these paramilitary groups as a tool of fear, trying to stifle any sign of popular resistance. During the American invasion that led to Maduro's capture, over 30 Cuban soldiers were neutralized. These soldiers were responsible for the dictator's direct security, highlighting the dependence on external support to keep the regime running. The pressure on the interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, is intense. The United States demands concrete changes and guarantees that the country will not become a haven for dictators and traffickers again. If there is no cooperation, a new intervention may become inevitable. In the Caribbean Sea, the siege on Venezuela continues. The Southern Command has kept thousands of troops mobilized, monitoring the Venezuelan coast 24 hours a day. Warships and aircraft watch every move, ready to act in case of a new order from the Pentagon. This ongoing Caribbean presence shows the United States won't let the Chavista regime regroup. The naval blockade blocks weapons and drugs that support the regime, preventing the Chavista leadership's remnants from gaining strength. Meanwhile, Maduro faces trial in the United States court in New York. Before the judges, the dictator claimed to be innocent and declared himself a prisoner of war, trying to justify his crimes against the Venezuelan people.
I am Nicolas Maduro. I am the president of Venezuela, and I consider myself a prisoner of war.
Donald Trump was categorical in stating that he will eliminate anyone who tries to bring drugs into the United States. The message was clear. There will be no tolerance for regimes or leaders who use drug trafficking as a source of power.
For years and years, and he's a violent guy, he goes in there and tries to imitate my dance a little. But he's a violent guy, and he killed millions of people. He was tortured. They have a torture room in the middle of...
The presence of United States intelligence on Venezuelan soil ensures that Washington has inside information about every move of the regime. International pressure is increasing, and the Brazilian president is monitoring the crisis, worried about its regional impact and the future of his ally, Nicolas Maduro.
For years and years, you've been hearing that Maduro was a bad man. Many know, many.
The Brazil-Venezuela border remains a focus for potential migration flows, where the Brazilian army even sent 4 generals to the border, something unusual in the armed forces. Venezuela's future hinges on interim President Delcy Rodriguez's position. The presence of drones flying over the country shows that a surgical and strategic attack might be on Donald Trump's radar.